I think we should go back a little bit to the beginning, because that is a very interesting and a very rare situation. Your family having this long roots, especially in the US, it's quite rare. In Europe, there are a few winemaker families, but in the US, it's pretty rare. And your family lived through the Prohibition era. For the most of our viewers are not from the US. It's for them. It's not. It's a stranger topic. Can you explain a little bit about the Prohibition era and how could a winemaking family keep the tradition of winemaking and not lose this lineage?
So Prohibition and a number of countries and cultures, I should say, not just countries, throughout the last 100 to 150 years, have had some level of prohibition. Where through like the late 1800s, early 1900s, alcohol was viewed as kind of a toxic beverage, something that was going to ruin your life, and so there were these movements, and so a number of these movements actually took hold in America, did for nearly a decade or just over a decade or so, and they realized that wasn't the right way to go. But basically, alcohol was banned. Now you could produce and consume a certain portion of wine on your own every year. So I think they allotted 250 gallons of production per person. Now, was that supposed to be drunk? Not necessarily, but for use in cooking and that sort of thing is, I think, what the mindset was behind that. When they repealed Prohibition, then we created a state by state, or even in some cases county by county, distribution system that would allow for more control at a local level of alcohol sales. And they realized also through Prohibition that it really created some bad effects, right? So people would then be binge drinking, and they were doing it in the basements or in these secret speakeasies, and it was unhealthy consumption of alcohol. So I think bringing it back and focusing more on moderation and control was the way that they brought alcohol back into the American culture. So my family did continue to produce wine throughout Prohibition, just for personal consumption. So they kept the fire going, but didn't produce a lot of it. They were selling grapes, continued to grow grapes, because there were a few caveats to Prohibition. If you were producing wine for the church, because you had sacramental wine, you could maintain your license, and there were a number of wineries that actually did that. And then the other was for medicinal purposes. So a few of the wineries continued to work through that. Beaulieu Vineyards, Inglenook, Christian Brothers, whatever. There were a few that continued to produce through Prohibition and are continuing to produce today in many cases. So that remained a opportunity for people to continue wine making culture here in the U.S. and grape growing culture, for that matter, just as importantly. My family did not have ties to the church, and they were not doctors, so they ended up not being able to produce through Prohibition. But nonetheless, they kept the knowledge and continued to produce wine until finally they had to get or got back into wine in 1972.
Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section, and see you in the next one.